As any of you guys who follow my Instagram know, I've been going through a big old Marty Friedman kick lately, and one of my favorite things about his playing are those two-string kind of sliding connecting arpeggio shapes that he uses. So today I've come up with a lick that utilizes some of Marty's signature tricks. That way you can learn a thing or two about it yourself. Yo guys, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here with your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Marty Friedman has always been one of my absolute favorite lead players ever, especially as playing on those early Megadeth records like Rust in Peace, and honestly even into that whole Youthanasia era and all that stuff. There's some really killer solos on those records as well. And one of my favorite things that Marty is so good at is taking a simple power chord riff or something and applying all kinds of crazy harmony over the top of it by playing arpeggios that complete the basic chord structure of that power chord. See, a power chord is, neither major or minor. It's just a root and a fifth. So on top of that, you can make it root major third fifth if you want it to sound like it's a major chord all of a sudden, or root minor third fifth if you want it to sound like a minor chord or something like that. That's always been a really strong part of his playing, and a lot of times the way he does it isn't with big old, sweeping up and down arpeggio shapes that get kind of boring to listen to, but rather by using like little two-string shapes that connect to each other across the board. The lick I've come up with today for you guys to practice follows a 1-4-5-1 chord progression in the key of E minor. That means it's E minor, A minor, B7, E minor. And it uses sliding arpeggio shapes on the top two strings mainly here to connect those across the board and show you how those shapes and patterns line up with each other. But before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. And as always, you guys can find a full tab for this week's lesson over on my Instagram page. Be sure to give me a follow over there at Ben Eller Guitars. Find the tab for this week's lesson, learn how to play it, then upload a video of yourself shredding through it, along with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. Okay, all these arpeggios here use some pretty wide, sort of stretchy shapes, so I hope that your little finger is in good working order. Now, the first one that we're going to play here is an E minor. And like I said, E minor is any combination of E, G, and B. So 3 different notes, right? Now, there's 3 different shapes that we can use for E minor as well on those top 2 strings. And the cool thing is once you kind of learn how they work and how the patterns kind of overlap with each other, it's the same for every other chord too. You'll see it with the A minor section as well. We'll kind of break it down as we get into it. So the first arpeggio we're going to play here starts off on the 24th fret on the high E string. So no Les Pauls allowed, I'm afraid. So hit that 24 and pull off to 19. That's E and B. Then you got to play the 20 on the B string, and then go back to that 19 on the high E string. There's your E, B, and G notes right there. Now, after you come back to that note right there, the high B note on the 19th fret high E string, what we're going to do is to slide down to 15. Okay? That's a G note. Again, staying in the chord. And then what you're going to do is to hammer back on that 19, pull back off to 15, and then you're going to play the 17 on the B string. Now this has landed us in another one of these E minor shapes. I always call that kind of the Cliff Burton minor shape. It makes you think of like Anesthesia. That whole thing. Now you'll notice that this first E minor shape we use, let's look at the lowest note in it, right? In other words, the high B note right here. Did you notice how in kind of like the, head bones connected to the neck bone kind of fashion, how if we put our little finger on that note instead, it connects us to our next shape. Again, the Cliff Burton shape right there, right? To me, I think of this first shape as being the very asymmetrical one, because the notes are just kind of staggered off in weird ways. So you got the asymmetrical shape, which is connected by that note to the Cliff Burton shape. Now, again, we're going to move this into another shape here in a second that will go along with. So far we have this. Now the next measure, what we're going to do here is to give the next 2 shapes that same treatment. So check this out. Start off by playing the 19 on the high E, pulling to 15, 15th B, 15th high E. And this is where we're going to move into the next shape. Slide to 12, okay? After you do that, hammer on 15, pull off 12, and play the 12 on the B. This one right here, 12, 12, 15, is what I call the stacked shape, because the low notes here on the bottom are stacked up, okay? So we have the asymmetrical shape, which is connected to the Cliff Burton. The Cliff Burton is connected to the stack. Again, you got to kind of see how these things sort of overlap with each other. I think it's totally futile to try to memorize it as like fretboard numbers and stuff. That would be punishing. I'm just really kind of looking as, okay, this shape connects me here, this shape connects me to this shape, and so on. And again, once you learn that sequence once, you've learned it for all the arpeggios, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so all together, our E minor section, we have sliding down, new section, sliding down. Now this leads us to the A minor section right here. Now A minor is ACE. That's the notes of an A minor chord. And again, we're going to be using those same three shapes, only for an A minor chord instead. So check this out. Start off with the 17 on the high E, pulling to 12, then grab the 13 on the B. That's what I was calling the asymmetrical shape. Remember this one that we started with up here? It's the exact same shape. So you're going to play 17, pull to 12, 13 on the B, 12 on the E. Then what you're going to do is to slide down to fret number 8. That's your C note right there. Now you guys might remember from a second ago, the asymmetrical shape connects to the Cliff Burton shape. Okay, so what I did here is after I slid down from that 12 to 8, I hammered back on 12, pulled back off to 8, then played the 10 on the B. Next what we're going to do is this. So we have the Cliff Burton shape, 12 pulling to 8, then we get the 10 on the B, 8 on the high E, sliding to 5, hammer on to 8, pull off to 5, play the 5 on the B. So again, that was the Cliff Burton connected to the stack. Again, just look at the lowest note, replacing that with your little finger, that leads you to the next shape. Again, you can see this the whole time here. Big asymmetrical A minor, lowest note, right? Put your little finger there instead. There's your Cliff Burton. Lowest note in that shape, right? Put your little finger there. That connects you to the stack, okay? Now the last arpeggio here would be taking place over a B, and this is one of Marty's favorite things to do, is to take, again, what would be a power chord, and not only make it sound like a dominant chord, but making it sound like an altered dominant chord by putting some diminished stuff on top of it too. It's a really cool harmony trick you can do that just makes stuff sound super, super, super tense. I always love when Marty does it. So here's what we're going to do. Now again, this is major, so the shapes are going to be a little bit different than those minor arpeggios that we've been doing. A B major arpeggio is B, D sharp, and F sharp. So the sequence that I play sounds like this right here. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm starting off with the 14 on the high E string, pulling to 11, 12th B, then the 11th on the high E again, right? Then here's where stuff gets a little bit more interesting harmonically. Because what I'm going to do is after I hit that 11 on the high E, sliding to 8. Now that 8 right there is a C note. Again, the chord is B, right? So in other words, B is right here. So you can see that this note is right next to the root. It's a half step away. It's what we call a flat 9 interval. This is kind of making it sound like B7 flat 9, which is a really, really, really tense sounding chord. And it's really cool to do this kind of thing over dominant chords. Start playing, like, the way I think of it anyway, is start playing diminished patterns a half step above the root. Okay, let's run that again. If the chord is B, start playing C diminished stuff. Okay, half step above, put this diminished stuff. Stuff's gonna sound hyper tense. But the reason I don't do that right away is because I like kind of putting that B major taste in your mouth before I make it weird with this diminished feeling stuff. So anyway, so we started off right here, sliding to 8, hammer on to 11, pull off to 8, then play the 10 on the B, okay? Next what you're going to do is reiterate that same shape. You're going to play 11, pulling to 8, 10th B, 8th high E, sliding down to 5, hammer on to 8, pull off to 5, and then play the 7 on the B. So that's notice how that diminished shape just repeated, right? It's the exact same shape, just 3 frets away. The cool thing about diminished stuff is you can always just connect it in 3 fret intervals like that. So anytime you're working something that sounds cool and it's diminished, just try moving either direction 3 frets, and it's probably going to keep sounding cool. So over the B we had, and then this last part is another Marty-ism where he likes taking a minor arpeggio and adding in the 9th. In other words, the note a whole step above the root. You can hear him do this in Killing Road. I think he does that in Tornado of Soul somewhere. But this is going to be E minor with that added 9th again right here. And this is going to be, again, what I call the Cliff Burton shape. So I'm going to start off here on the 7 on the high E, pulling to 3. Going to play the 5 on the B string. Hammer on to 7. That's that 9th, that F sharp note. Go back to your high E string here on 3. Grab that 7 on the B, pulling to 5. 4th G, and then 5th B again, your root note to N. And that's your last E minor add 9 kind of sequence. Okay, so all together, we got the E minor, again, asymmetrical shape, connects to Cliff Burton. Cliff Burton connects to stack. A minor time, same stuff, asymmetrical, Cliff, Cliff, stack. B major, diminished. Then the E minor add 9. Now I also want to give you guys an idea about how I like to pick these things. Marty might do it a little differently with his super weird picking hand that he does. I cannot play that way. But what I like to do with these arpeggios here is, I'm always about putting the pick in the direction of the next string I'm headed to, right? So whenever I play these, I start off with an upstroke, downstroke, then an upstroke again. Then you got your slide and hammer on and pull off, right? So you got up, down, up, and then I'll do a downstroke right here on the B string. So it's up, down, down. Same for the next sequence. Up, down, down. I would say that's the picking pattern that I use through the entire thing right there. That seems to work pretty well for me. So you'll notice that it's not really sweep picking. He's not really using consecutive downstrokes or consecutive upstrokes a lot. That's one of those things Marty always kind of maintains, that he's not really like a sweep picking guy. He does it from time to time, if we're being completely honest. But most of the time he comes up with more interesting things by avoiding the typical stuff that everybody else does, just playing straight up and down arpeggios like that. So it's something to add into your own playing too. Keep that in mind, that you can always slide around with these shapes, do some hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff to make it a little bit more exciting than your typical up and down sweep patterns. So there you go, guys. A cool lick that hopefully gives you guys some insights about using Marty Friedman's style of sliding 2-string arpeggios. Again, here's some really great examples of this stuff. Check out his solo on the Killing Road. Tornado of Souls does it to kind of a different extent, but to me, Killing Road is the one that really has that cool thing where he connects arpeggio shapes sliding across 2 strings like that. So be sure to scope that one out. It's on the Youthanasia album, which I think is a criminally underrated record. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You guys can also follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars and over on my Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. Thank you guys as always for watching, and just remember, if you like it, learn it.